What is going on, guys? Welcome back to an episode of the Young Rich Podcast. Today, here we are. It's been a little delayed. It's been a couple weeks, man. I can't even lie to you right now, all right? I've been BSing a little bit. I've been bullshitting. I haven't been in the lab, haven't been in the studio trying to grind and increase my platform and get back to the how consistent I was on uploading and being on TikToks and being constant on all that stuff. But one thing I have been doing is I've been very, very active on social media, Twitter, TikTok, and all this stuff, posting sports betting, which we'll get into in a minute, right? Betting for me has been going solid so far. So if you would like to go check out my picks and would like to look at my stuff, either check out my TikTok or X, Twitter, however you want to put it. Young Rich Podcast, Young Rich 831 on both of those platforms. You will find my picks daily, NBA, NFL, and college football. So today we got a lot to discuss, all right? I missed the trade deadline, right? I was not here to discuss the trade deadline, so we will get into that later in this episode as well. But first things first, listen, this Thursday night football game we got, right? I am a Joe Burrow fan. I am a Joe Burrow diehard, right? But I am sitting here, and I am what I just watched was just jaw-dropping, right? Listen, Joe Burrow comes out here, plays an absolutely phenomenal game. 34 for 56, right? 428 yards, 4 touchdowns. Jamar Chase, 11 receptions, 264 yards, 3 touchdowns, right? But at the same time, you still were, with all this type of offense and all this type of production, you still blew a 14-point lead, all right? And then the 2-point conversion, which we saw how that all played out, right? You went for 2 and go for the win instead of going for the tie, right? And now we're sitting in a situation where now you're looking at 4-6. You're looking outside in again, right? You put yourself in a tough situation again, right? And listen, the biggest jaw-dropping thing about this whole thing was the fact that this defense could not stop Lick, right? And I understand that we've known this, right? We've known this Bengals defense has been very suspect all year. We know this Ravens secondary has been suspect all year, right? But when you get into these division games, you would expect there to be a little bit more, defense of emphasis. This is your division rival, right? You play them multiple times each year. It's the same QBs, the same system, the same offense, the same players. You see these faces multiple times a year. It is nobody, you don't really like each other. Let's just put it that way. You don't like each other, right? And for Joe Burrow, he's been getting a lot of hate. He's getting a lot of backlash, right? He's been kind of overlooked because of how well Lamar Jackson's been playing this year, and Lamar Jackson's on this historic run, right? And I know Lamar Jackson, 25 for 33, 290 yards, 4 touchdowns. Derrick Henry had a slow day for his standards, 16 carries, 68 yards, right? But listen, the biggest thing for me is that, again, we got into a situation again where you got behind the sticks a little bit. You were down a couple touchdowns, you were down a couple points, you were down 2 possessions, right? And then you just completely go away from what you are as a team. You went away from the fact that you are a running style offense, a hard-nosed team, a smash-mouth football team, right? You get into this third quarter, the first drive, you don't score, okay? Boom. Cincinnati's driving the ball. They look unstoppable. They look like they're about to go up 3 possessions, 3 touchdowns, and then all of a sudden a Chase Brown fumble, boom, and the momentum switches just like that. And now all of a sudden you have momentum. Now the crowd is going on. Instead of booing you, they're cheering for you, right? No, now we got a chance. Now we got life. And then you go out here and then you just completely ignore giving Derrick Henry the ball, right? And I understand, again, you were able to get out a W after this, the way you played. Lamar Jackson, again, made some big-time plays, right? He should have had a drop pick that could have ended this game, ended this little comeback, ended this rally, right? But what coulda, shoulda, woulda, whatever. I'm not going to be the guy to come here and complain about bad refereeing or any of that stuff, right? Okay? But listen, the Baltimore Ravens keep getting in the situation where you look at it, and I get it. It's worked against Cincinnati. It's worked against a couple of these teams that don't have great defenses, right? But when you play the Chiefs, right, we've seen how it played on not only in the playoffs last year in the AFC Championship game, but we see how it played in the beginning of this year, week 1, okay? We seen how they got to you, and you thought you were Patrick Mahomes. You came out here and threw the ball 35-plus times a game, right? And you completely changed up what you do best, which is run the ball, and why you run Derrick Henry. And you saw the exact same thing, okay? You saw this exact same thing against the Cleveland Browns. You saw this exact same thing against the Washington Commanders, right? And it just needs to eventually these guys need to figure the fuck out that they are a running team. You have a Hall of Fame running back in Derrick Henry who's playing like he's in his prime right now, right? Who was at one point on pace for another 2,000-yard season, right? So again, you have the best running back in football. You have the best rushing quarterback in football. Run the damn ball. right? Like I feel like I sound it's just repetitive because I'm always saying this, but Lamar Jackson needs to, and the Baltimore Ravens need to get out of this. I need to throw the ball. I need to compete with these guys who are getting paid just as much money as me. I need to prove that I am better than or just as good as Joe Burrow. Because the real of the fact is you're not. Okay, you're not, right? You are benefiting from the fact that you just have no defense, right? You have that you're going against a team that has no defense anywhere, no playmakers, right? You have one good edge rusher, and outside of that, you have nobody, right? Okay, at least you have a good front seven. At least you have a good pass rush, a good run defense, right? The Cincinnati Bengals have nothing, right? And when you pick on these teams that have absolutely nothing going for them, right? You look good, of course, great, you can get away with it. But every time you play a good team, a great team, you played the Chiefs, it didn't work out. You played a division rival in the Cleveland Browns, it didn't work out, right? And so eventually they got to figure out that they cannot continue to play this type of football. And when you get into these kind of shootouts, right, you turn into a pass-heavy team, right? That's just not what's going to be successful for you. And I don't know how many times we have to see you struggle while you do that, and for you guys to figure it out, right? Again, you can get away with it early on against shitty teams, against bad teams, but eventually somebody's going to catch you for doing that, and the Kansas City Chiefs has been the team to do that, right? And if that is your goal at the end of the day, is to compete in the playoffs and go to the Super Bowl, that's the team you have to go through, right? So again, we all have to figure it out. We all have to, figure this stuff out. But okay, again, I'm not giving up on the Cincinnati Bengals. I still think they're a great team. I still think they have a chance. Obviously, they put themselves in a big hole. What's new? Whoop-de-daisy, right? These guys need to play flawless football going forward, and I'm hoping they can do so, because football is better when Joe Burrow is playing. Football is better. I'm a Joe Burrow supporter, right? So I want Joe Burrow to thrive. I want to see him compete and be in the playoffs every year, right? He makes football better. He makes it more watchable, and so I hope that they can figure this out and, stack some wins and put themselves in position to win the playoffs, right? But getting into our betting recap, right? And again, if you are not following me on TikTok, Twitter, X, however you want, Instagram, whatever, you're missing out on my picks. Currently, 41-25 in the NFL, 24-16 in the NBA. These last 2 days in the NBA, I've been a little slow. Had some very rough beats. I'm not gonna lie, just some situations like today. Not a Darius Garland. I took a Donovan Mitchell over 24.5 points, and they end up blowing him out by 50. And, the game eventually comes into within a 20-point game, but Donovan Mitchell really doesn't put up shots like that. He's not really trying to score because you're up by so much, right? So that was a bad beat for me. But, today, OKC minus 8.5, looking like an absolute sweat-free play. I got the Lakers minus 8.5, looking like a sweat-free play. Kevin Durant over 25.5 points, banged, right? Anthony Davis under 13.5 rebounds. We're still playing that. We're keeping that by eye. Evan Mobley, again, he's been dogging everything in the NFL, right? In the NBA right now, he's been very, very good. And again, Evan Mobley, 23.5 points per rebounds combined, over, cashed, right? Even in the blowout, he still managed to cash. So again, I feel like I've been doing pretty good when it comes to these plays, and so far being pretty consistent. So if you want to tag along and check my stuff out, just go to check me out, Young Rich Podcast, Young Rich 831, one of those two socials, and you should be able to see my plays daily, right? Because I do post daily. College football, we're talking about Iowa minus 6.5 today. Currently, I believe they're up 10-10, but again, I've been really trying to lock in on the gambling picks, right? And for the most part, I feel like I've done a solid job, right? Again, if you followed every one of my NFL plays, you would be profitable. If you followed every one of my NBA plays, you'd still be profitable, right? But again, I'm still trying to do better in the NBA, right? I have a couple. Sometimes I let the community plays talk to me a little bit more when they shouldn't be. But again, I'm trying to lock in for you guys, not only for me, but for the community, right? I want to be able to help you guys out. And if I can do that without having to make everyone pay for a $50, $100 premium like a lot of these guys do, I'm going to do just that, right? So I'm going to help the community as much as I possibly can. So Young Rich Podcast picks, check them out. They're posted every single day, 7 days a week. And we're going to continue to stay high in the NFL, continue to improve in the NBA going on. In college football, again, we've done very good, a great job so far as well in there. But now that we got done with the gambling talks and discussions, right? Again, we have to discuss about the NFL trade deadline, right? Because I have not on my channel yet on an episode today, so we will be going through the NFL trades today. NFL trade deadline today, okay? And this is going to be the most recent moves to bottom, right? I'm not going to go over like the Devontae Adams, Amari Cooper, a Cam Akers. I'm not going to go over any of that stuff. We'll go all the way down to DeAndre Hopkins, and that'll probably be the latest trade that we will be discussing. But first things first, I mean, listen, the San Francisco 49ers, again, they added depth to the defensive tackle situation. They traded for Khalil Davis from the Houston Texans for a 2026 7th-round pick. Just added some depth for the San Francisco 49ers because, again, they're just banged up with injuries, so they had to add some depth here. The Baltimore Ravens getting Tre'Davious White and a 2027 7th-rounder from the Rams for a 2026 7th-rounder. Again, this is not a very big move. Tre'Davious White coming off of multiple injuries, season-ending injuries, multiple surgeries. I just don't know what he has left in him, right? He hasn't looked great. He hasn't looked like a Tre'Davious White in his prime before the injuries, right? So again, hopefully they could get something out of him. But again, it was a lot of Nate Wiggins, Marlon Humphrey before he got hurt yesterday. So I'm not really digging this move a lot. I really wish they would have went out there and got a Marshawn Lattimore like the Washington Commanders, which we'll be discussing in a little bit. But again, you had to make a move. You had to add to that secondary. You made a move. Is it an impressive move? No. Does it move me in any direction? No. Your secondary is still going to be god-awful. And now you just added an older veteran cornerback who's had multiple injuries, right? So we don't even know if he can move the same. We know he can't move the same, right? So I'm giving that not a very good grade. And then we got two Steelers trades in the same day within the same hour. Preston Smith from the Green Bay Packers, edge rusher, gets traded to the Pittsburgh Steelers for a 2025 7th-rounder, right? And again, this had to be done because the Green Bay defensive end, second-year guy, I'm not sure what his name is, but I've heard I don't remember what his name is off the top of my head, but he's been he was productive in these last couple of games in the limited snaps that he was given. So it looked like it was a situation where this guy has an opportunity to blossom and thrive, getting rid of Preston Smith, an aged veteran and somebody who can still produce, and now letting this young guy kind of figure it out and get his feet wet completely and getting more reps, right, to develop his game, right? So I love this for the Pittsburgh or the Green Bay Packers, right? You got to pick out of it. You got what you can get for it. And then the Pittsburgh Steelers also ended up trading for Mike Williams for a 2025 5th-round pick, right? And this one for me, again, you heard him in the post-game press conferences, in the interviews when he got traded to the Pittsburgh Steelers. He said that he just felt like he couldn't connect and get on the same page as Aaron Rodgers due to the fact that, he was just coming off an injury. Aaron Rodgers was coming off an injury, and they just could not get on the same page. And then by that time, once you get into the game and, Mike Williams, he's here. He's trying to get on the same page as Aaron Rodgers. He's trying to get his groove. He's trying to get back into his game, right? And it's hard to do that when you guys are starting off losing, right? You're putting yourself in a big hole, and now there is no room for error, right? That's why he requested to go get, or he wanted to go get Devontae Adams. That's why, Garrett Wilson. You also have Garrett Wilson and Devontae Adams, right? So again, you had to go out there, and you knew this was going to happen. This Mike Williams trade was going to happen. I like it for the Pittsburgh Steelers as a wide receiver 2, just to give anybody some sort of help around George Pickens. I think he can thrive as a wide receiver 2, and if you can get 80% of Mike Williams last year before we got hurt, that's a great pickup for you, especially for a 7th-round pick. I believe they gave up a 5th-round pick, 2025 5th, right? And so again, I love that for him. So I'm gonna give him a C+ for that. Is that a respectable grade? Cornerback Marshawn Lattimore was dealt from the New Orleans Saints to the Washington Commanders. The New Orleans Saints got a 2025 5th, a 2025 4th, and a 2025 6th-round pick, and the Washington Commanders got Marshawn Lattimore and a 2025 5th-round pick. And I love this for the Commanders, right? You had questions about their defense in the beginning of the year. The secondary has really come together these last couple weeks and have played a lot better, right? And now you're adding to that secondary. You're adding a guy, Marshawn Lattimore, who you can have for 2 years. He's not going to impact the cap much this year, right? And you get a guy who's an all-pro cornerback, who's a multiple Pro Bowl cornerback, right? He is a very good cornerback, very respectable cornerback. He's very consistent. He's good at what he does. And this is now in a situation where now you had to make a move. You had to make a win-now move to help support your quarterback, right? To improve the defense, right? Because Dan Quinn, defensive head coach, you got to add to that defense, right? So I do love this for them. I think this was about time the Saints kind of start moving some pieces and kind of hit that little rebuild button, right? So again, I love this pick for him, and so I'm hoping the best for Marshawn Lattimore in the Washington Commanders with the Washington Commanders. Jonathan Mingo was traded to the Dallas Cowboys. Again, listen, I'm not even gonna get into it this much because Jerry Jones, no, you have no Dak Prescott for about, what, 4 to 5 weeks, right? This team is already below 500. You don't have anything to look forward to. CeeDee Lamb might even play this week, and if he does, he'll be very limited with his shoulder, spraining his AC joint, right? And now you go out here and you waste draft capital of the future to go get someone like Jonathan Mingo, right? Who is just, like, again, he hasn't proven to do anything for anybody yet, right? And so now you're kind of reaching on a guy who you hope has some sort of boom potential, but he hasn't proven anything to do so, right? And even if you are the Dallas Cowboys, Jerry Jones, why are you making a move? You shouldn't be buying anything. You are below 500, and you still hear him talk about all these despicable things, saying I'm all in. We're still here to win games, right? And I just don't see it. You're at a clear retooling position, right? You're gonna have a high draft pick. You have a chance to add a legitimate great player to this team next year, right? So again, I hate this grade for both parties. I mean, listen, the Carolina Panthers finessed, getting a fourth-round pick for this guy. So again, shout out to big A plus for the Carolina Panthers, which is crazy to think about, right? For a guy who didn't even, or a team that couldn't even get a first-round pick for CMC or Brian Burns, right? So again, boom. Khalil Herbert was traded to the Cincinnati Bengals, and yesterday he did have his only minutes. He dropped the fumbled exchange, right? So again, I mean, Khalil Herbert can go out there and be solid. Am I really impressed with this pickup? No. You had to add depth. Zach Moss is hurt. And again, Khalil Herbert, maybe he can give you some good carries here and there. But again, I mean, nothing too major with that situation. You have Zadarius Smith, who was traded from the Cleveland Browns to the Detroit Lions, which is something we were expecting to happen. The Detroit Lions to go out there and get an edge rusher to replace some of the production from Aiden Hutchinson, right, who's done for the year, obviously. Zadarius Smith and a 7th-round pick, a 2026 7th-round pick for the Cleveland Browns got a 2025 5th and a 2026 6th-round pick, right? So I do like this pickup, right? Because I do think Zadarius Smith is a guy who can give you key, crucial, big plays in big moments. If you get into that playoff game where you need a play, you need a big-time play, he could be the guy to provide that, right? So I really do like what you're getting out of Zadarius Smith. It's a little bit of a rental. I believe there's only 2 years left on his contract. You're not investing too much in him. You still have Aiden Hutchinson coming back from injury and, things like that you can figure out. But again, so I think that addition was needed, and now that you added to this, you feel better about not having Aiden Hutchinson, right? So I like this pickup for him. Boom. The next trade, we have the Carolina Panthers, the Arizona Cardinals trading for Baron Browning from the Denver Broncos. Oh my God, I cannot speak today. For a 2025 6th-round pick. And listen, Baron Browning, again, has been a solid player this year, right? I know a couple of Denver Broncos fans were a little bit sad that they did move off him. Baron Browning's, again, another young player who's been just doing pretty good. He's been doing solid. Has he been great? Has he been outstanding? No. Has he been bad? Has he been terrible? No, he's been solid, and hopefully there's some more rooms to grow. And for a team like Arizona Cardinals, I think it's good that you added to the defense, because that was one of the biggest question marks about this team, right? And now you're sitting in a situation where you are the number 1 seed in your division. You're first in your division. You have wins over the Rams and the San Francisco 49ers, right? So you have wins or the tiebreakers over those teams at this current moment, right? And so you had to go address the defense, and you went out and did that, right? So I love this for the Arizona Cardinals and for Kyler Murray and that staff, right? And the Minnesota Vikings trade for offensive tackle Cam Robinson, 2026 conditional 7th-rounder, and the Jacksonville Jaguars got 2026 conditional 5th-rounder, right? And listen, this was a situation where you kind of got with, Minnesota needed a tackle, right? You lost your tackle for the rest of the year. And the Jacksonville kind of, again, needs to get some more assets, needs to get some more picks. You're kind of in a retool situation with how poorly you've performed this year, right? Hit some more picks. Hopefully you can hit more picks and increase your draft capital in this upcoming draft and add to continue to build around Trevor Lawrence, right? Offensively, add to that offensive line, add to that defense as well. To that secondary has been atrocious this year. And again, it's not a huge trade, but it's a good trade, right? You got a solid tackle, right? A young tackle for not much at all, and you still eventually will have depth once your starting tackle comes back off of injury in the future, right? So again, solid trade for both teams. You had to do what you got to do. And then we have the Baltimore Ravens trading for Deontay Johnson, a 2025 6th-rounder from the Carolina Panthers for a 2025 5th-rounder, right? And again, you got more from the Ravens than you did when you traded for him for the Pittsburgh Steelers, right? So a good trade, another good trade for the Carolina Panthers GM, right? You're just getting a couple more picks, adding to your draft capital for this upcoming draft, because you do have a lot of questions and question marks to fill, right? But again, I'm not a fan of this trade, right? I give it a D minus. Why? Because you already have a good receiver in Zay Flowers, right? And he is kind of putting on that wide receiver one case, for his not only his team but in the league. He's been great this year. When he has the chances to get the gets the ball in his hands, and he's great at what he does. Great slot receiver. He can kind of move inside and outside a little bit, but he's just great at what he does. Yards after catch guy, can get open, can catch, make tough catches, and things like that, right? And he just fits well alongside what they're trying to do in Baltimore. The RPOs, the play actions, the stuff like that. So again, I don't like adding Deontay Johnson because I think you just added another good receiver for nothing. Like, you are going to add another receiver to throw the ball more? No, that's not what we're doing here, right? And you need to run the ball, right? So again, I don't like this for the Baltimore Ravens. You're trying to play into this whole, Lamar Jackson is one of the best quarterbacks in football, the best throwing quarterbacks in football, and that's not the case, right? And when you continue to feed into that storyline, you just can continue to try to feed into it yourselves, right? By calling plays that make him try to throw the ball more and becoming pass-heavy team, adding more receiving weapons around him, trying to make him look like a Patrick Mahomes, a Joe Burrow-like player, right? And that's just not what he is. So again, give us a D- for the Baltimore Ravens. I think you just weighted draft capital on a receiver you didn't really need. If anything, add to that secondary again. You didn't spend much on Tre'Davious White. Maybe you could have went out there and got a legitimate great corner or something like that, to add to that secondary alongside Marlon Humphrey. Yeah, but that is the last trade I will be discussing in the upcoming NFL trade deadline. Okay, but getting into the next thing I wanted to discuss is the Detroit Lions. Okay, the Detroit Lions have been absolutely dominating the NFL this year. Okay, I mean, it's not no secret, right? They've been coming out here blowing teams out left and right. Okay, and the question today is the Lions the best team in the NFL? And listen, I understand I'm with you, you can't be better than the Kansas City Chiefs until the Kansas City Chiefs lose. Until you prevent them from winning a Super Bowl, or you knock them off, you give them their first loss, right? And listen, let me just tell you that I think this is the best team in football right now, right? And I've been saying this for the majority of the year, okay? Listen, Jared Goff, 82.8 completion percentage. No one has done this over a 6-game stretch in NFL history, right? And imagine if he can continue this type of pace and finish the season like that, right? Imagine if he goes another 3 or 4 games playing at this type of elite level. You had a game the other day where he had no incompletions, and he won a game. They went out there and scored 40 points, and he had no incompletions, right? And then you go out there last week against Green Bay. You don't have the best air passing yards game. The big plays were not connecting. You weren't making them, but you were still able to run the ball all over and do whatever the hell you wanted, right? You had big play after big play. Your defense was playing good. You were forcing turnovers, right? And again, this defense has come together. This offense has come together. Jared Goff is in the MVP discussion. Jared Goff's playing phenomenal football right now. You have elite two running back combo in David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, Sonic and Knuckles. It is just you have the best running back tandem in football. You arguably have one of the better young tight ends in football. You have a great top 5, top 8 wide receiver in football, right? And I know Amon-Ra St. Brown's not getting all the numbers that he did last year, right? But that's because they're winning in so many different ways. Jameson Williams was getting involved. You have Jahmyr Gibbs getting involved. David Montgomery having his days. Sam Laporta having his moments. Everybody is going out here eating. You are throwing trick plays you're throwing flea flickers, trick plays to your offensive linemen. Everybody is eating out here, right? And when you're having this much fun, when you're dominating like the Detroit Lions are, I mean, it is just so it's so hard not to cheer for them. A city, a team, a franchise that has been hated on, everyone has told them that they're no good. You had Barry Sanders for his entire career, and you made him quit. You made him retire from football because you suck so bad. This is one of the situations that I just couldn't be happier for. The Detroit Lions are the best team in the NFL. They have one of the best defenses, top 5 defense, the best offense. They're scoring 35 points per game. They're not going to let you score more than 20 points per game. They're going to get after you on the pass rush. Now they added to their secondary. They got guys like Brian Branch, and Carlton Davis, right, adding to this defense. Meek Robinson was playing some key clutch moments on this team, right? And this team is just so good and so fun, and it's just so hard not to like this team, right? And so I am a Detroit Lions believer. I do believe they are legitimate contenders again. I mean, one bad half of football away from being in the Super Bowl last year against Kansas City Chiefs, right? So again, this is the team to beat in the NFL, and there's just so many different ways to go about it. Go about them winning games and being successful and being able to do things, right? And when you are that dynamic, when you have that many different opportunities and ways to score, to produce, and play defense and all these things, it just makes you so hard to play and compete against. And when you are playing like that, and it's just so fun to watch. They're playing such a fun style of football, and we have a head coach like Dave Campbell who was like plays with that much passion, who coaches with that much passion. Aggressive, goes for it on fourth down. He's throwing trick plays. He's letting his O-line celebrate and eat. It's just so fun to watch, and I love the whole system. I'm happy for the whole organization, right? But again, I do think they are the best team in the NFL, and I think until I'll still give the Kansas City Chiefs their respect, obviously, because they're undefeated, back-to-back Super Bowl champs and stuff like that, right? But, listen, the Detroit Lions are coming, so I would just pay close attention for what they're about to do. And then, one of the sneaky teams of this year, somebody who I was very high of this upcoming season, Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals. Not only are you first in your division, right, but you are sitting here, you're 5-4, right? You just traded for some defensive pieces for an edge rusher, Baron Barring, from Denver, right? And now you're sitting out here, right? You have a very early in the year, you were seen as a sneaky team, a frisky team, a team that you cannot wake up and underappreciate or prepare for this team, because they will punch you in the mouth, right? And then you have that rushing attack with James Conner, who's playing some great football this year. And when James Conner is going and he's running the ball, right, this offense is going, right? And then you have Marvin Harrison Jr. getting more involved in the pass game this year. Trey McBride being a phenomenal tight end this year. And then Kyler Murray. Listen, I was a big Kyler Murray fan, right? I was big on him in college. I was big on him in the NFL, when he made the playoffs, when he was winning these games, and I love to see Arizona win. The NFL is better when Kyler Murray is winning games. And when Kyler Murray is using his legs like he is to extend plays and make plays, and you're seeing him break off 30, 40-yard touchdowns every other week. It's just great football to watch. And now you're starting to see this defense come together a little bit more day by day, week by week. You're starting to see it come together. Now you have the tiebreaker over the Rams, tiebreaker over the San Francisco 49ers, first in your division. You're sitting in a great spot here, okay? And now you look at the rest of your schedule. Listen, you're sitting here, you play the New York Jets this upcoming week, who are in desperation mode. I expect them to come out here and James Conner have a field day against this team, okay? But again, you're going to be going against a stingy defense who, has some good players, but they haven't been the same since Robert Saleh left. You're going to have against a weak rush defense. You're going to play at Seattle again. I like them against Seattle. I think they could split, right? And I wouldn't be mad if they split, right? Because they play Seattle twice in the next 5 weeks, okay? And then you're going to go on the road to play Seattle. You're going to go on the road to play Minnesota. That's a tough game there for you. Boom. You go play at home versus Seattle. You go play at home versus the New England Patriots, which is a winnable game, a very, very winnable game. You play in Carolina against the Panthers. Again, another very winnable game. Then you play in LA versus the Los Angeles Rams. And you finish your last game of the season playing at home versus the San Francisco 49ers, right? And, listen, you're sitting at 5-4. You come away with you split with Seattle, one win against Seattle. You get to pick up New England, you pick up Carolina. That's 3 wins. Maybe you lose to the Rams and the Niners again down the road. You split one to Seattle, you lose to Minnesota. You end up beating New York, right? You're looking at a 9-8 season. A 9-8 season, a 10-8 season, 18 games. I'm tweaking. 9-8 season, right? And if you can make the playoffs at 9-8, sneak in, maybe win your division. That's just Beautiful work. I love that for Kyler Murray. I love it for this team. Arizona, it's about time Arizona gets more involved on the winning side of things, right? And so I'd be so happy to see Kyler Murray come in here and continue to win and dominate, right? So I'm praying for him. I'm hoping for them to continue staying hot and continue. Oh my God, I cannot speak today, man. Continue producing like he has been this year. Because when Kyler Murray is playing Kyler Murray type football, it's just great to watch. He's a fun player to support and to watch every Sunday. But with that being said, that was the last topic of discussion for today. It is going to be a shorter episode today. The next episode, I will be getting into some more NBA stuff, talk about some teams, some early NBA stuff. But if you want to come check out my gambling picks, my gambling page, Young Rich Podcast picks, Young Rich 831. Check me out on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, right? I'll be there. You know me. Check me out, and we can make some money together, right? I'm trying to build a community. I'm trying to build a brand, so let's build one together. Why not, right? I don't want to be the guy charging you $50 to get in my premium, because that's not what I want to do. I want to help everybody win. I want to see everybody with money in their pockets and money to take their girlfriends out to vacations, all right? I'm a single man, but you know what? I'll double. I'll pay for multiple vacations for myself. You know how it is. But with that being said, if you like today's podcast episode, make sure to like, follow, and subscribe. Turn on post notifications if you're listening on YouTube. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, make sure to follow the show and give it a 5-star rating, as it helps improve the algorithm. And with that being said, if you enjoy my content, make sure to tell a friend and tell a friend and tell a friend. Shout out Kenny B. We out.